people that are terminally ill, they take it as therapy for them to sort of, I guess, come to grips with their situation. And also, interestingly enough, I think people that were alcoholics, that took it.
They did years ago, yeah.
Yeah.
They experimented with it.
They and apparently it worked for some.
For
at
some
least just for a while. It didn't. I'm sure it wasn't. Once after a few months or whatever after.
Back in the Timothy Leary days, they tried it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so at any rate, that idea I think is still being worked on. I think at NYU they're experimenting with that with patients. And you mentioned people that were in near-death experiences, and also what was interesting was a guy I knew in Pittsburgh who had claimed to have basically experienced really. He didn't say it was enlightenment, but he said it was a cosmic consciousness experience.
Yes.
And this guy had it when he had studied a variety of spiritual things, and he had gone. Actually, he decided to give it all up and go to marry this woman in Detroit or something. Anyways, he went. It was in this hotel lobby, and he just had this experience where he could travel anywhere until it came to this point. He mentioned that it came to a point. He felt like basically at that point he lost his ego, however you want to call it, became nothing. And from that point, he was different after that. And other people have had described these kinds of experiences. Other than, let's say, taking drugs. I remember one time fasting. Interesting, you mentioned fasting. That I had an experience like that.
Yes.
That just, somehow or another, you remember it. Remember exactly that experience. Not, it wasn't the same level as maybe these other people or these saints or, people that, but I think there's varying degrees of these kinds of experiences.
So two things. One is, it is done under control situation. So American Indians do under control situation. Baba Ramdas, he went to India and met his guru, if you read his story. So he had LSD, and his guru says, how many you have? 5, 6? He swallowed the whole thing.
Oh.
Nothing happened to him. What it shows is somebody's consciousness is totally open. The drugs have no influence on them. Okay. Other aspect is, people who do the drugs to open up, that's fine for opening up, but they don't know when to stop. And in the process, they kill their nerve cells, brain cells. And they are not coherent. They lose some of the capacity, so you have to be careful. In Hindu tradition, marijuana is common. If anyone saw the Kumbh Mela, you see all the sadhus, I recommend, like 40 million people visit during that period, and all the sadhus, they smoke marijuana, and they drink marijuana, and they say they are followers of Lord Shiva. So they are using as escape, as escape. They smoke, and they get lung problem and all kind of thing, but they associate Lord Shiva drank it, so they drink it. So all kind of escape. So these are some of the points.
Shanti, when you tie the two together, drugs in general,
Yes.
saying in general, drugs, alcohol, anything, and you take these people and you separate them with the sober people,
Yes.
and just in general, I'm just talking about overall, if you're like a weekend alcoholic or a nightly drinker in comparison to somebody that doesn't drink, the people that don't drink, I noticed, and don't do drugs, always do better. They're clearer, they do better. I'm not saying they're more intelligent, that's got nothing, I just see in life,
Yes.
just in general, that's all I could say.
Yes. So it is clearly,
They do
it
better.
damages the brain cells. You can see clearly. I have seen so many
Their life runs
cases.
smoother, they
Disaster.
just do better, they do better socially, they do better financially, they do
Yes.
better verbally, they just do better.
Right,
That's
no,
all I'm
it
saying.
makes sense because,
And I've experimented, you know,
Yes,
I've
no,
done all the
I-
same stuff. You
hey, but I met all kind of people, I never experimented,
know. Right.
but I see that trend like you're
You
describing.
can see it, you know, and
Yes.
so,
Since you're talking, anything from a workshop, want to share those who are not here? Any highlight or anything you feel like?
well, the one thing you were talking about is the sanskars, I was thinking about in general, you were talking about like, they bubble up, or they bubble up. So it was kind of reminding me, if you think about it, if you take a person and shake them, for example, and you hit a chord where they might not like a certain word or phrase or whatever it is, you know, something might bubble up, the anger, the
Yes.
attachment. So I was thinking about that. So if you take anything or any human being and shake them up enough, it's actually a good thing, because the attachments will surface, and then maybe you can get rid of them quicker. So it's actually,
Yes,
in a way, better to be bombarded, I think.
right. This is why we're talking about luxury or hardship in life.
Right, right.
So hardship in life shakes us up.
Right.
This is when we transform our life, when we go through hardship. There's so many people became great spiritual masters because there were hardship. You know, in Indian stories, all the great masters awakened. Only few examples, like Buddha, who was prosperous from beginning and questioned. So for most of us, we wake up when we are punished. For example, if you are a problem, your drinking problem or smoking problem or any problem, and you have an illness, and doctor said, this is it, you will wake up and you will change your habit. But very few people wake up ahead of time, you know.
Right.
This is bad for me, let me change it.
Right.
So the way it is described, I put in the book but it's said in so many places. So some horses are so dumb. Every time they whip, they move couple steps. They get whipped, whipped, whipped. Other horses are a little smarter. One whip and they go on. And smartest horses are, they see the shadow of a whip and before they get whipped, they move.
Take off.
Okay, so I'm just
So we're dumber than horses, that's what you're saying, I think.
yeah, most of us are like that.
Yeah, that's true.
Linda, anything you want to bring up?
No, I'm just listening at this
Yes,
point.
okay, good. Karen, anything this?
That's it. All I know is after I leave here, I just feel, I feel lighter and I feel, you know, really at peace.
Yes.
But one thing that I'm becoming aware of, because I am practicing some of the things that you suggested, is this, must be the sanskara that I don't know. It's fear, and it's a specific fear that I'm very aware of, and it must be a deep sanskara.
Yes.
So, you know, say when they're lifted, and then, okay, it has bubbled up. Okay, now, and I'm practicing, but it keeps bubbling up.
Yes.
And I know the solution's spiritual, I know it. I believe that,
Yes.
because that's why I'm here.
So, it's the difference between sanskaras coming up under hallucinogenic drugs and coming up with meditation is this. When it comes up with doing drugs, you have no control, so that experience will take you deeper into that trap. Okay? But when you are in meditative mood, you are a witness. That is the key. Even in a rebirthing, hypnosis or control substance is somebody's there, so keep you more like a witness. You become outsider and watch those things. So those things evaporate and you lose grip of it. Okay. So being aware is the
A
key.
witness.